Welcome to the What's Up Already podcast, where we fashion ourselves television judge and jury. My name is JJ Crowder. I'm here with my co-hosts Mattson.
Better red than dead.
Alec Purchase. Marvin, I love it. Well played, sir. Well played. We are here live to talk about the Rings of Power and House of the Dragon. We'll start, as always, with the Rings of Power. But first, thanks for joining us. Go ahead and hit the like, follow, subscribe, bell notification button so you keep up all of our episodes, all of our lives, things like that. With lives, go check us out on Facebook too. That way you can keep up with all the announcements with live episodes, things of that nature. But yeah, we appreciate you tuning in. Gonna give a quick shout out though. After a long conversation, Mattson may not, or none of us may want to ever shout out Charles ever again. But yeah, shout out to our patron Charles, or JJ Screaming Goats. He got his quarterly review request put in the other day. Mattson, you're muted, bud.
Charles, I was just calling you AKA Satan's left butt cheek, so
you have no idea, sir. You have no idea based on what he requested. So we're gonna have to talk about it.
Basically, if you want to torture us, check out our Patreon and learn how.
Yeah, it's something. He also picked the since he's the only one right now. We had a series we had 3 movies we're definitely doing for October, so he got to pick the last 2 based on a handful of movies I gave him. So I'm gonna tell these guys what those are. Alec, it's not as bad as you might think. So
all right,
I mean, you're not gonna love one of them at all,
obviously.
But one of them's not as bad. So it could have been really bad, but he spared you. Because I gave
Charles.
I gave him all the chances in the world to really make it ugly, but
it's your fault.
Nah, but he chose to spare you. It should be interesting. So with that, let's talk about Rings of Power. There's a lot to unpack here. A lot happened in this episode. It was a good episode. I enjoyed it.
I want to learn to ride a horse like Galadriel and be able to have the balance where a spear and arrows being shot at me, and I can just dip down. No big deal. I need that kind of gymnastic work in my life.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Hard enough.
Too much effort.
Hard enough for me to properly grab something out of my fridge.
That's fair. I've almost fallen out of my chair a couple of times, so I can't even imagine. Riding a horse is scary. Those things go fast.
Can we first talk about how this started, this episode?
Yeah.
With them bringing down the freaking tower.
Yeah.
Like, that was an insane sequence, and Arondir just keeps on getting better and better.
Yeah.
Like, holy smokes.
I was surprised at how many of the humans and orcs actually survived that, to be honest. Like, because they were locked in there, so they did pretty well to survive. I mean, I realized that it wasn't that big of a tower once you were in there, but it was a lot of rock coming down on them. So,
oh yeah, huge
tough bastards.
Hey, Adar wasn't worried about it. Just stared that right in the face.
Yeah,
well, he's the bad guy. You can't
throw back to Lord of the Rings 3 with that orc that they were hurdling the things from the Gondor Tower, and he just does a little step to the left or right or whatever. I was like, my man.
Yeah, that was funny. Yeah, Alec had some good TikToks out of this episode. Like the whole freaking beefcakes thing. That was funny.
Yeah.
There was some
5-layer
orcs.
beefy burritos from Taco Bell.
No kidding. It was surprising how big some of them were.
Well, that was what thought about it, because like, these are supposed to be orcs. They're supposed to be impy dimpy little shrimps, and this dude's like 8 feet tall.
Mm-hmm.
And granted, he was only one, so I figured it was that they were looking for that shock factor about having this big old tough orc.
Dude's been toning, building all those caves, and just that
got beefy.
Yeah. Dude was big old orc. Though I did find it interesting, and we'll just jump right into some lore there that I'm sure some people are really salty about, because it's a deep cut 50-50 split on the origins of orcs, or as we hear in this particular episode, the Uruk, that they were created from the elves being tortured. That's a deep cut that I've always followed because it came from a series of it came from a book that was written by the man himself, Tolkien, but he also had some literature that like contradicted that fact. So a lot of people are iffy on whether or not, but as involved as the Tolkien estate has been rumored to be with this series, I think we kind of got some information that some people probably didn't want to have at that point.
I did like that whole reveal, though.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't a huge fan of, oh, yeah, we're called Uruks.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I didn't care either. Because
Sure.
the entire conversation leading up to it was dope. Where he's like, yeah, I killed Sauron. I was like,
Yeah.
Because pretty much the entire Second Age, that's what Sauron does. He just dies over and over and over again.
Yeah.
But Adar at least seems to think that he's gone for good. At least gone enough to move into his old house.
So that's why he wanted the mace sword thing, so he could just have it and no one else would screw with his plan. But then he wanted to create the volcano, so you're saying he could move in there because he killed Sauron and he was just going to take his throne, basically.
Pretty much, because Sauron picked Mordor because he got 3 mountain ranges, right? So it's extremely defensible. And then if you have Mount Doom, who's erupting repeatedly, you have ash in the sky blocking out the sun, and the orcs need the shade.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
In that conversation between the two of them, Galadriel kept mentioning his children. Are we talking about how they make orcs? I just wanted some clarification there in the lore. Because you guys understand, especially Alec understands this better than I do.
Well, when a mommy orc and a daddy orc love each other, Mattson, very, very much.
Yes.
That was good. That was good. I like it.
Are there lady orcs?
It's a great question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't see them, though, because they're too busy making babies.
But again, like, orcs are created, though, like through dark magic or something. I'm still fuzzing in this detail.
So is Tolkien.
Yeah, so how do I explain this? There was and I don't even remember what it was, which book it was that he talked about. But there was a book that Tolkien wrote that was like it wasn't any of his major unfinished books. It was more like what was it? It was like it was like an appendices like the Lord of the Rings has, but it wasn't a Lord of the Rings appendices. It was the annals of something, and I don't remember, but it was just another set of notes that they turned into a published book at some point. And what it was is in that particular book, he wrote in these notes that there was elves that were tortured. They were taken by Morgoth and they were tortured to the point that they were taken control of. Their darker nature was brought forth, and they were enslaved. And at the time, it was Melkor. Morgoth was Melkor, which they can't use that in this series. But same guy, just a different version of him. And so he tortured them, and then the first orc were created. And it was done in order, like Melkor did it in order to like mock the Eldar, to just say, haha, look what I can do to your people, because he was a dick. And that's what he did. Now, again, the problem was there was other writings that he did that contradicted that. It never outright said that they weren't tortured orcs, but it was hinted that they were created in a very different way. So Anyway, just depends on which camp you're in. But it's kind of like one of those, each fandom of nerds has their sides that they'll take, like, and that's one of those places where there was some split in the fandom of Lord of the Rings and Tolkien. And yeah, I've always appreciated, I like the idea of a dark elf and the elves that were turned into orcs. I like how they played this in the show to where he wasn't full orc. Like, he even held on to some of like the elven traditions, like the whole seed thing at the beginning of this episode I thought was very interesting, because you can see that he wasn't completely bereft of who he was before he became an Uruk. So I liked that. I really appreciated that they gave him that. Whereas most orcs, they're just orcs. But it was also an interesting concept when you're having that conversation. It kind of gives the orcs a little more humanity, for lack of better term, but like they're at least you're more sympathetic to him, because what he's trying to do is give him a home, right? At least trying to give him somewhere to be, versus they're just this vile group of creatures that just destroy everything. So I thought that was an interesting take, giving that side of the orcs.
Frustrating for Galadriel as well, as we saw. She could not come to grasp with the fact that he wasn't just evil incarnate.
Yeah.
And he had great arguments.
Yeah.
I think that's what you look for in a villain, a compelling reason to lead the cause. And I mean, that dialogue was gold. And I'm glad he's not dead, because I was like, oh man, like, no, like, don't take him from us. I was happy to see that there's more to be played out here.
Yeah, should be interesting. I'm curious. I guess for me, the one thing that stuck out with this is that whole conversation where Adar thinks he killed, and maybe he did, at least that version or that body of Sauron in order to save the orcs up in the far north. And he did so in order, and with that, it makes the stranger seem more like he could be Sauron reborn, because we don't know how that looks, right? We know that he comes back, as did Morgoth most of the time, but we don't know what that process is. We don't know. We just know that when he gets killed, once he bleeds his soul into the ring, when he's forging the one ring, he can survive. His soul can survive as long as the ring's there, but he can't, without the ring, he can't put himself back in a physical form. Whereas that hasn't happened yet, so he can put himself back in a physical form. So are we seeing the intro to the stranger being Sauron's shapeshifter form? I don't know. It puts more question marks on the stranger for me. I was pretty convinced he was a wizard or a Maiar of some sort, and now I'm like, based on that conversation, the timing, the with the whole prophecy thing, it would make more sense to me now if he's actually Sauron.
Could be. There was that whole thing, though, in an earlier episode where he talks about the comet landing, and he kind of hinted at Sauron. If he killed Sauron, what was the point of that? Like, that would be my question is, he seems, unless he was feeding Galadriel a ton of horse shit.
Fair. I mean, which is possible. I mean, it's not like these people were ever like completely honest, right? So, I mean, Sauron could be somewhere chilling as Anatar, and Adar could be working for him. It's not like he couldn't be a good liar, right? The only thing that triggers me to believe his story was when the humans were like pledging to Sauron, and that face he made to the old man before he made him kill a bunch of people. That didn't look like the face of someone that looked like a pretty true, I don't like this Sauron guy that you keep trying to say I work for. So that's why I kind of believe Adar does think that he killed Sauron.
Yeah, it's just weird because you think that he would know about Maya and their eternity, for lack of a better word, being one of the Eldar.
Mm-hmm.
So there's something in there that either he truly believes that Sauron is not coming back,
yeah,
or he's feeding people a line for some other reason. I don't know what it is, but
so I gotta pull this out because this whole Maya thing in people, they're like eternal and everything. So in Lord of the Rings, when Sauron's in the tower with the eye, but the ring's destroyed, does that like finally take him out? Like all Horcrux versions of Sauron are gone? Is that how that works?
yeah, because when he makes the rings, he pours, like JJ was saying, his essence into it. Further down the line, when Numenor sinks, he loses his body, and he loses his what's called the fair form, his ability to shapeshift. So he's tied to the ring now, and that's his
okay.
only...
That's the thing that's keeping him in the round. Okay.
So he tied his life force to it.
Yeah.
So when like Gandalf, when I like read the books and when we thought he died, he didn't die. He came back as another kind of like version of himself, but this one happened to be like what I thought was more, well, not even what I thought, more powerful for sure.
Yeah. He got sent back because his job wasn't done.
Yeah.
And he was the only one who was actually doing his job, so he sent him back.
Yeah.
Great lesson in corporate America right there.
Yeah.
You got more work now because you're the only one doing your job. Here you go.
Yeah.
All right, well, thanks for that clarification. The other part of that conversation at the end when Halbrand came in, and obviously Adar clearly did something to him that he doesn't remember, and then he asked, "Who are you?" And Halbrand paused, but then walked away. We didn't obviously get an answer to that. What speculation do you all have there?
So that's the other half. Yeah, that's the other half of, if it's not the stranger, again, I could stick to Halbrand being a shape-shifted form of Sauron, because it would make sense.
Oh, I guess, yeah, the emotion there.
The animosity towards Adar, because Adar gutted the dude, right? So he tried to kill him as Sauron. So the tie-in there, or it's just a legitimate, this story is what it is, and Halbrand had a woman, because that really, you could tell it triggered him. But was he playing? I mean, look, Sauron he's a sneaky fucker, or guy, so you can like really catch on that he could be playing that part because Adar gave it to him, right? Like,
well, so Halbrand he doesn't seem completely truthful or believable. Like, I feel like there's some shadiness there that they keep kind of leaning into a little bit. I don't know. That's just the vibe I get.
Oh, he's definitely shady.
Oh, yeah. Well, he's man of the South. Men of the South, like the Southron men they're known for not being good. So unless because one thing that Alec and I had a quick text about it that Alec brought up that I was like, that's interesting, because now the South it's Mordor. I mean,
you got to move.
Yeah, you're not staying there.
Mm-hmm.
So you move north far enough and you run into, he could be part of the Rohirrim. And I was saying, I didn't think so at first, but then I thought he handled the horse pretty well. He fought on the horse really well. So that's their thing in Rohan. So he could be, maybe he becomes the founder of Rohan, maybe, in which case they're also kind of shady from time to time. So it's, it would make sense, but I think there's a lot of options for him right now. I think I'm still clinging with him to the obvious, and that is there's enough darkness in that dude that he could, and he was very proud to be king there at that point, right? Like, he liked that these people were huzzahing the shit out of him, and so it wouldn't shock me if he gets if he's the Witch King.
The Witch King. I still think that's a good lead candidate.
Yeah. It would make sense. Him or Theo, one of the two. Because now Theo is, while he's not necessarily of a royal descent, his mom has now become like
a legend. Yeah.
Yeah.
And his phrase, he said, like, he misses the power, feels guilty. I mean, that triggered warning bells off in my head. I'm like, that he literally is talking like he held the ring of power, and in a way, he basically held a form of it, just not in a ring.
Yeah. So I could see Theo becoming the Witch King as well. I think that's one of the things that I'm so impressed with this show about is there is so many shows that take something like this format, right? Well-known content, And like even the Star Wars content that we've seen up to this point, they take the obvious things and they lean into the obvious for the fan service. And I appreciate that as a fan. But I like this show because they haven't full on leaned into any of the obvious things. And I think that's really impressive because I think our natural tendency would be to let's do it, let's make this person this, and let's make it obvious and give it away. So the fact that they're slow playing the shit out of this show and who's who, they're giving you some major characters, but there's some major characters that we should be seeing or we're expecting to see that we haven't seen yet. And I think that takes a massive amount of patience, and that's really cool that it keeps me guessing. And the fact that I can ask these questions, I love it.
Oh yeah, they don't tell you anything.
Yeah,
I'm still holding out that Halbrand is the King of the Dead in Return of the King.
I would
King
like
of the Dead
that.
has a spear. Halbrand uses a spear.
Yeah, I like that.
But I'm okay with him being anything, which is like you don't get that in the show.
No,
I'm okay with Witch King. I'm okay with King of the Dead. As long as he gets to be somebody, I'd be kind of upset.
Well, I think that's the exciting thing is there's so many things we know that will come to be, and we don't even know all the players in this yet. And so that's why I still go back to I'm glad that Adar is not dead because I really like his character, and especially after that conversation, really am intrigued by his motivations, and I wanted to see more of that continue. And that's honestly the thing I'm happy about the most is I hope we get to see more.
Yeah, it's exciting. I think that's
because anything that can prolong
things.
Sauron or whatever else, and I would love to have him take us through season 1, if not in the season. If he has to die at the end of season 1, that's fine. But if we can go into season 2 with that and keep building, like that's to me always the making of a good show. Can you give me a compelling villain that I care about that drives in? Because all the good characters, like I like Galadriel, but man, I'm really intrigued by the other side of things and the motivations and all these covert. You just know a lot of these people have to go bad, like Theo, for instance, or Halloran or whatever. And I think that's when I'm already really excited about when we know we're going to have multiple seasons of the demise of some of these people and how that happens, and then the rise of Sauron. There's just so many budding possibilities. And this is only, what episode is this? The 4th one? The 5th?
6.
Oh, 6. Jeez, look at that. And
we only got 2 left.
Oh, that makes me sad when we have 2 left. And there's so, yeah, I just got sad.
Yeah. I'm actually okay with it because as you're talking about that, like I would love for it to end with Adar still having the capability of there being a possible showdown with Sauron. Like if he's telling the truth and he actually fought him and killed the physical form he was in at that time, like I'd be seriously intrigued to see now we have him coming back and how's that going to play out for Adar and the orcs, right? Like do the orcs turn on this father figure that they've adopted? Do we have an orc on orc battle? Because that should be interesting, right? Like I think they've set up some very interesting things that I didn't expect them to set up, which is impressive. I'm very impressed with what they're doing with this show. We talked a lot of shit, Alec and I, in the first 3 episodes.
Well, yeah, because they didn't let me know what was going on. As soon as you told me that there is no timeline, I was all in.
Yeah, but since then, it's been really, really intriguing, really good. So I'm happy with what
the show's awesome. I'm all in.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, and I was not expecting good old Mount Doom to make an appearance in episode 6, right? Like we just watched the creation, and what a dope way to do it. You just you open a dam, and everybody thinks you're digging tunnels to attack the town.
Mm-hmm.
No, dude, we're making pathways to get water to a freaking an underground volcano that hasn't erupted for who knows how long.
How do they know where to put that? They got orcs that are engineers out here wearing little engineering hats and performing equations. I mean, I didn't know they were that smart.
I'm sure Sauron knew about it, like going up, because that's how you have that map, right? That's laid out. He knew where Mordor was going to be for a good long time.
Fair.
And so that had to have been part of it, was understanding the fact that Mount Doom could be Mount Doom, right? So,
all right,
no, I just love that. Let's create so much steam that we create a volcanic explosion. It was so dope. I loved it. Everybody's in the middle of thinking we just won. No,
so not knowing that was going to be Mount Doom when it was happening, I was like, are they waking up Sauron. I was like, he just said he killed him. I was like, what's happening here? Right when it went off, I was like, oh, I should have seen this coming.
Yeah, I was completely, when he put the sword in, when the old man put that sword in, I was like, what's he doing? Like, what is this key? And then all of a sudden it just opened the dam, and I'm like, what's that gonna do? I mean, so you're just gonna flood the south? Like, I don't.
So was Sauron just waiting to do that? Like, he died before he could do it, but he set up everything to do it? That's, I mean, clearly what it seems like, but he was just waiting for the right time, but then he was killed?
I don't know that Sauron would have done it that way. Like, he's got enough magical abilities, and should have at least some contact with some Balrog that would be able to create some help there with some magical properties, things of that nature. So I don't know that would have been his intention to light up the volcano that way, but certainly he knew what Mordor, what the Southland could be based on that was always his choice. But I mean, it was always Morgoth's choice to be in the South as well. Like, they all were pretty well determined to be down south. So
yeah, I don't know if it was Sauron's play, because he kept going north and north and north and north.
True.
And then Adar got tired of going north and went south.
Yeah.
Better weather, better defense position, not as many elves. It's perfect.
It's true.
So I don't know if Sauron was even involved with this. Maybe just a opportunity that Adar took.
Yeah,
he's gonna be happy later.
Oh, obviously.
I mean, that would be an interesting twist, right? That, like, it's talked so much about how Sauron created Mordor, but at the same time, what if he didn't?
Yeah, you know, the winners write the history books. So
yeah, so he just kind of took it over, right? And I think that's an interesting twist.
And then he just told everybody he created it.
Yeah, exactly.
Who's going to question him?
Yeah, I mean, nobody's going to ask it. How'd you do it? Shut up.
The last thing I want to say is I hate her name, Bronwyn, but Bronwyn, however you say, when you can take an arrow close to the heart and you can live to tell the tale and be an OG and lose a ton of blood, like, I was like, you know what? I'll respect the name now.
Yeah. I like her, though. I like Bronwyn. She's a tough cookie. I like the old man that took an arrow in the back. That was kind of sad. I was like, yeah, you guys got played. But it is what it is. So one thing I was thinking as they were riding these horses in from the river and, like, their full freaking gallop, I'm like, you just told me on the ship it's a day's ride once you hit the river once you park it on the river. You're gonna kill those horses before they get to the south. Like,
hey, they're Numenor horses. They're special.
Man, I did find it interesting that, like, Galadriel, like, powered up her horse mid run. I was like,
well, it was a throwback to the first Lord of the Rings with I'm gonna figure the elf's name.
Arwen.
Yeah, she did the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
I did also like that Elendil could talk to his horse like Aragorn could. So they gave that little Easter egg in there.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, oh, okay. I like that. That was cool.
That stuff lasted even down into the Rangers. Love it. All right, well, there it is. Anything else we need to talk about? It was a good episode.
That was really good.
Looking forward to more.
Yeah.
Not looking forward to next week as much because I think we're going to spend a lot of time with the Harfoots.
Probably.
And I'm so excited at where we're at right now that I don't think I could wait another week for the season finale to get back.
Didn't think about that. Yeah. You're a very fair point.
I mean,
I like the Harfoots. I enjoy
too.
their storyline, but after they leave me on a cliffhanger like that, if we don't get any more from it, I'll be a little bit peeved.
Well, based on the trailer, we have to at least, because there's that shot of Galadriel standing up and the sky's like orange and she's covered in
she realizes she's fired.
Yeah, so she's covered in, like, soot and ash. So I mean, I think we'll at least see some of the aftermath, but I don't think you can have another self-contained episode of just down south. I think there's too much going on with two episodes left.
You have to hang out with JJ's little people.
Dude, I love the Harfoots. I think they're fun. Nori cracks me up, dude. Like, yeah, I like the Harfoots. I'm excited. But that night, I'm really intrigued by the Stranger. So,
You would make a very good Hobbit, JJ. What are the ones that the Southville, whatever, and like the ones
Sackville
Sack?
Bagginsons.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Sackville
you'd be
Baggins.
a good little like cursing Hobbit, JJ. Just be one of those ornery little effers.
Dude, I'd be sitting in the freaking Green Dragon just drinking my ass off, like, or whatever the hell that pub was that they end up in. It's down in the Shire.
JJ, a little salty little Hobbit.
I would be too. All right, well there it is. Mattson, tell everybody where they can find us.
Yeah, as you heard us talk about at the beginning, check us out on What's a Verdict at Patreon. 3 different tiers. You can be like our super listener Charles here and help us see what movies we want to review. You can watch exclusive trailers for movies that are coming out that we're doing as well. And then you can also recommend you can tell us what movie you want us to watch, and we will just do it, which is not always fun, but very much appreciated. Beyond that, check us out on TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram for social media, especially TikTok. Alex doing some great things. Got a lot of Rings of Power content up there right now. You all seem to be gobbling that up. And then you can listen to us wherever good podcasts are found. Apple, Spotify, search What's Our Verdict Reviews. And our website is under a deconstruction and getting a facelift. We're excited for that to come out here shortly. And again, just appreciate y'all listening.
Awesome. Thanks, Mattson. Yeah, appreciate it. As always, we'll be back here in a moment to finish up and talk about House of the Dragon. So stick with us. Be patient. We'll be back in a few seconds. But yeah, thank you. We'll catch you on the next one.
What? But not really.
Cinemagic out.
Whoa!
Welcome to the What's Up Already podcast. We fashion ourselves television judge and jury. My name is JJ Crowder. I'm here with my co-hosts Mattson Heiner.
Better read than dead.
And Alec Burgess.
Let's get it.
Yeah. That was surprisingly normal. I didn't know what to do with that.
Not all of them can be cool. And it's a little weird. Whenever we do like a back-to-back. Yeah, I can't. It's got to keep you all on your toes. I can't do it all the time.
Yeah. I can see Alec like, do I grab the sign? Do I leave the sign alone? It was funny. All right, with that, we appreciate you tuning in. Go ahead and hit that follow, like, subscribe button, bell notification so you can keep up with all of our new episodes and live shows. Tell a friend about us. In fact, tell all your friends about us. We would love for them to join us as well. So, yeah, let's talk about House of the Dragon.
Dude, heating up.
Dude, another good episode. It was a good weekend for the big live shows we had coming. If Andor's just as good, it'll be the best week we've had in a while.
I'm not holding my breath.
Yeah, I mean, somewhere in the middle we have She-Hulk, so we still have to get over that hump there in the middle of the week, but we'll see how it goes. Yeah, this episode was interesting. They made some changes that I want to talk about to the, I guess not changes per se, but they filled in some gaps that the book does not have. So I'm interested to talk about that because I actually liked what they did, which shocks me because I'm not a huge fan of that, but it was an interesting episode. I'd like to hear what you guys think because
Daddy Hightower is back.
Dude. Yeah.
And he is ready to rumble.
Yeah. Good old Otto. Reese fans is amazing. I like that guy.
I mean, it's got to be one of the more interesting post-funeral feuds that have been captured in, fictitious history. But what's the boy's name that caused all the commotion?
Yeah, you talking about the one that rode Vagar there and came back a dick? It's Aemond.
Aemond, I knew I was like, oh, there's that dragon. I was like, I wonder if he would. I was like, he's kind of a pussy. Maybe he won't do it. But then he does and goes and does this thing like balls because obviously, as Jay just talked about earlier, that I've been learning is, dude could have just died. Like, real easy. A little snap-a-foo, a little snack for the dragon. Dragon's massive. And I feel like the dragon was testing him as it went into the sky. Could have just fallen off and died there, too. Multiple times. So I do have to give him props. He's a little weasel. But he stepped up and made a big man move. And then he came back all empowered. And was like, I'm the shiz. I got a dragon. Like, y'all suck. And then he just decided to take it out on poor mourning children on the opposite side of the fence and a great little feud ensued, and he lost an eye. But in his words, a price worth paying. I thought it was awesome. I mean, just to see the parentals feud come through the children and then come back through the parentals. I mean, masterfully done this episode, and you could feel the tension. Like Lady Allison was just about to. I thought for a second. No, I didn't think she was going to stab the king, but man, I wasn't sure what was going to happen that moment. She pulled it out, and then she turned. I was like, that's probably better where you're going to take that anger. But whoo-wee, man, like, whoa, fireworks.
Yeah, there was a lot going on.
To be fair, Aemon came back a lot nicer than I would have if I had just bagged the biggest and oldest dragon in all of Westeros.
Yeah.
I would have been way worse coming back.
Fair.
Yeah, but that's just me. I'm a bit egotistical.
I didn't even talk about Damien and Rhaenyra doing the little blood, tinky. Like
they were coupling, Mattson, okay? They were coupling. We got to use the right word here.
That tells you how much was going on in this episode. But I think for me, learning more about Game of Thrones, House of Dragon, like this has got to be one of the quintessential just people vying for power and doing what they can. I even talk about, did they fake Rhaenyra's husband's death, or is he like really dead? Got to get some clarification. I mean, that was just at the very end. It was like, boom, all right. Like,
well, to be fair, we've only been talking about it for like 3 minutes. We can get to all these points, Matt.
I know. I just been like, it's all coming through. I'm vomiting right now. I'm just gonna go on mute.
No, you're good. So are we talking about Laenor then? Is that what we're doing?
Let's talk about Laenor.
Okay, so first thing is they twisted some of the timeline here, because Laenor actually dies before Laena in the book, in the actual book canon timeline. So, and Laenor is in the book killed by Carl, his lover, but it's done in a market with a ton of witnesses, and it's because they were fighting with each other, and then they pull out blades and get after it. Now, there were rumors, and there was only, like I said, this book that this is all based off of is kind of from 3 different points of view. One of which is Mushroom. And they kind of showed Mushroom. It showed the dwarf that was in like the wedding party like 2 episodes ago or something. They're hinting that was who that was supposed to be. But Mushroom has like the most evocative point of view. And so he made it was like this brief claim that Daemon paid Carl to kill Laenor. It was never confirmed. It was nothing like that. So, but he does die after or before Laena, which is, it's an interesting thing. So, but they also died pretty close together. Anyway, because it was Laenor's funeral at Driftmark that they were attending when Aemond claimed Vhagar in the book. So they reversed those roles a little bit. And I think it makes sense for the story as to how, and they were close enough even in the book. I don't know that it mattered much. The point is what happens and how these kids end up in the feud. But the other piece with that is in the book, there is no hinting that Laenor survived in any way. But what they've done with this show now is they've really, and I get why they've done it. They want Alicent to be, at least for now, the villain side. That's who you hate. That's who you dislike. By extension, that follows to her kids. The only one that seems even remotely likable is Helena, but everybody hates her because she's a little weird. But I think they're pointing to her kind of being a dreamer like her family has, and so that's why she's a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. But the other thing that they don't touch on is the other side of that. With they have this conversation between Laenor and Rhaenyra where she's basically saying, look, I love you, we tried. And in the book it was never indicated yay or nay whether they did or they didn't. In fact, in the book it was Laenor spent way more time away from Rhaenyra, and because she stayed in court and he went back to Driftmark most of the time, he would come back for major events, things like that. But they've always, through the series here, made it seem like he was around in some way, shape, or form. So they have this interaction where you can't help but feel like both of them are trying to be there for each other. They have a decent friendship and, relationship in that way. So it was really shocking when you see Laenor gets paid off, or Carl gets paid off to kill Laenor, but then you see Daemon break that servant's neck, and I went, uh-oh, they're going to fake his death, the four of them. It is so intriguing to me that they went that way, but it also sets up Rhaenyra as a more sympathetic character. There's a lot more like there. She's tried her hardest, even though she's not necessarily, like Allison points out, she's not all about tradition and doing things the right way, but she's about people and making sure that she takes care of those that are good to her. I mean, she even tries to be good to Allison, right? Like, she tries to give her the benefit of the doubt and say, I don't think she's a cold-blooded murderer to have her husband or have the the Harwins killed. So they're really trying to push, in my opinion, the audience to feel for and support Rhaenyra versus having everybody just be a bunch of pure blood assholes across the board.
I think you could solve this entire mess by just saying, Daemon, if you want the Iron Throne, you gotta kill people.
Yeah.
Because he, so far, is the only one who's done any kind of shady, underhanded stuff. He's perfect at it.
Yep.
Like, break a few necks, a few knives in the dark, and you're good. Ready to go.
Yeah.
Instead of all this feuding back and forth, what's Viserys gonna do? We already know he's a weak king.
Yeah.
Daemon just enjoys the chaos. Like they showed in inside. Yeah, like inside the episode where he's a leaner, Matt Smith's talking about it. I'm like, oh yeah, he's leaning in. He's just like watching his family fall to pieces, and he is like, it's about time you got all caught up to me.
That is true. But that's how I would solve the problem. Just boom, 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 knives in the dark.
Poor Viserys. He just needs to die.
Yeah, it feels like season 2 might just dive into the Dance of Dragons because they're not far off, and it looks like there's another decent time jump coming.
Yeah, I was gonna say they jumped like 10 years. It looks like.
Yeah, which means we might start losing some kids here soon.
Good.
Yeah, it's because or the king's gonna die, and we start to see because the timeline, the way it plays out is Aemond One Eye, he's 19 when Viserys dies. That's what they call him, is Aemond One Eye. That's his actual moniker after that whole thing happens. But yeah, he's 19 when Viserys dies. So we might see, and so then and once that happens, shit gets weird. That's when things go kind of crazy.
Not weird yet.
Well, that's when things get deadly. How about that? And more so than even, because everybody's kind of died in some interesting ways, but dragons start going after dragons. You start getting some fights that, it's not long before all these kids start going down, like, because they're a bunch of little dicks.
Excellent.
Yeah.
How'd you guys feel about grown-up Rhaenyra this time around? In the last episode with the first one.
You took the words right out of my mouth. Honestly, I find myself being like, all right. I guess I don't mind it. I had an active thought about it. I was like, I'm going to ask these guys this question because, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes in, I think I had just accepted it. I was like, this is the new Rhaenyra. This is who it's going to be. And I started to forget the younger child Rhaenyra more than I thought I would. So I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I liked her in this episode, so I'm in. Like, I don't think they gave us enough of interactions with anyone in the first episode with her, other than it was just her and Allison arguing basically, and then like the kids. And so I think with this one, being able to see her interact with some adults and stand her ground and just kind of start to, and I like too, because she's kind of always waited for people to make decisions around her, and then she kind of did her thing, and now she's making things happen, like this whole Laenor situation. Like, I have a feeling that was her thing, right? Like, she's like, look, I want to set Laenor free. I need to shore up my claim to the throne by having a Targaryen name. Let's go, right? So I thought it was very intriguing, and I thought she did great. So I'm on board again. Took an episode to get there, but I'm on board again.
Awesome.
I like it.
I tell you though, I felt bad for Corlys Velaryon. Dude went from like hero to zero in an episode and a half. Like, this poor guy just cannot catch a break.
Yeah.
I guess it's like one of those, because they kind of talked about it with what's her name, Rhaenys, where it's like, we could have been happy if you had just let go of the throne, but instead, kids are dying left and right, and we still don't have the throne, and we don't even have a dragon anymore. That's rough.
Yeah. Poor. The Valerian family doesn't. Well, I mean, they don't last. In the, they're not. The blood of the Valerians family, like, it pretty much goes away.
Fizzles out.
Yeah, they just kind of, between the wars at the Stepstones that really kind of put a hurting on them, and then you have the raiders that come in from some of the other houses, and it just doesn't work out very well for the old Valerians, especially when you start. I mean, there is no good side in the Dance of Dragons, but by the time you get to the second Civil War, they don't really exist much. Might be one or two of them, but yeah, you're gonna see some. There's some. I'm looking forward to the Dance with Dragons. I'm interested to see how because we still got what 2-3 episodes of this one left. Three. Damn. So if the last two dive into the Dance with Dragons, now the Dance with Dragons lasts a few years. One of the first major fights happens between the two the kids we saw fighting in this one. So Aemon and Lucerys. So I don't know. I'm interested to see where they go from here now that we have another time jump coming. Because that 3 episodes is a lot.
A lot of content. So I do have another question, JJ.
Okay.
Does it ever come to a head between Kristen Cole and the head of the Kingsguard? I don't know his name.
Oh, what is the head of the Kingsguard name?
Do they ever throw down? Because in this episode, I got the feeling that this guy was fed up with Sir Kristen Cole.
Yeah.
To the point of, I'll mess you up.
So the other guy's name is Harold Westerling.
Call him Old Man Winkle.
Rip Van Winkle.
Yeah. So unfortunately, no.
Dang it.
If they follow suit, and I'm interested to see how it happens, but Kristen Cole actually becomes Lord Commander.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
I guess it kind of makes sense. The queen is in his court.
Yeah.
Are they sleeping together?
No.
Oh.
At least not.
You have to offer 3 buckets of oranges for that
one. Yeah. No, he was not.
Maybe that's what Lady Allison could use. Is just a better lover might help her out a little bit, release some tension.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, that would certainly be. Yeah.
Well, then her biggest argument against Rhaenyra goes right out the frickin' window, Mattson.
Yeah, whatever. Well, she helped get people killed in that castle before, so like whatever. Black marks on her face too.
Do you want me to make you really mad about Kristen Cole?
Don't. Okay, yeah, do it.
After he becomes Lord Commander, later on he becomes Hand of the King.
Oh gosh. Which king?
Aegon II Targaryen.
Ugh. Well, I guess it makes sense. That kid's a moron.
Yeah.
But still, Kristen Cole is Hand of the King.
Yep.
Oh, well, I guess I have something to look forward to. Or
That one goofball Lannister would have been a better choice.
Yeah.
Wolfball.
Yeah. It's all about, it's never good when this kind of fighting, they lean into like all the connections, right? So they have to get themselves this circle of people that they trust that aren't going to turn their back on them. And that's after the whole mess with Rhaenyra, he just completely leans into, the Greens. And so he's just their guy. So yeah, he becomes the hand of the king, and he's the hand of the king for a minute. Like, if I remember right, I'd have to double check,
doing
but
a shitty job. If you do a good job as the hand of the king, you don't last long.
Fair enough.
That's Westeros 101.
Yeah. I believe he might actually be around long enough for the second Civil War. So like the Blackfire rebellions. I could be wrong. I'd have to double check on that, but it may just be that he doesn't. It may be just the Dance of Dragons that he doesn't make it through. But
yeah, well, thanks for ruining that for me, JJ.
All right, but yeah,
I used to like him. He was my favorite for a little.
I know he was cool, right? And then
then he wasn't.
He's one of those. Even in the book, like he's one of those controversial characters because he's really likable at first because he's with the Targaryens, he's with Rhaenyra, and he's a good soldier, right? Like he fights in Rhaenyra's name in this tournament, and then he becomes her protector for a long time, and then because his honor gets impugned, and he becomes a douche and switches side, big baby.
Wait, how does he become the hand of the king? Aren't you supposed to be in the king's guard till you die?
Yeah, but they can be both. Like it's not unprecedented for a king's guard to be
second job on his resume.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, because they're always around the king anyway, so
they must have been really thin on people.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say the first war doesn't go very well for him right off the bat, does it, JJ?
Yeah. No, yeah. Well, and the best part is, at least when it comes to being the hand of the king for this knucklehead, it's because Aegon 2, the little bitchy kid, gets annoyed with his grandpa and says, "Screw you, dude. You're not the hand of the king anymore. Sir Criston, you're my new hand." Like it's complete and utter a child being a child. And you know what I mean? This young dude going, "You annoy me, grandpa. I don't want to deal with it anymore." So
sounds like Joffrey.
Yeah, very similar. Very similar. Daemon does some nasty shit, dude.
Good.
Like, and they hinted toward it. So I haven't talked about this one yet, but they hinted toward it at the end of the wedding episode. Do you remember like the puddle of blood after Joffrey, Laenor's lover Joffrey, got beat up and killed by Criston Cole? So they had that puddle of blood with the mouse, the rat, licking up the blood. So I'm not going to say who because that'll ruin it even more, but Daemon hires assassins named Blood and Cheese. And so that's what that was, the foreshadowing of Blood and Cheese coming eventually. And they are unpleasant, Blood and Cheese. They are nasty.
Good.
Yeah, it's not okay. So,
well, it makes sense based off the narrative about having it's better to be feared, and they're gonna lean into that, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm intrigued to see how they play Blood and Cheese because they have to bring him in, and Blood's this like huge mountain of a man, and Cheese is like this squirrely dude that doesn't even have arms. So it like, or is like at some point he doesn't, but he's like arms. He's just this little squirrely dude. But yeah, they're like, yeah, it does not go
like Pinky in the Brain.
Kind of.
Excellent.
Yeah, it's not. The shit they do isn't good. There's parts that I'm sure that they'll leave out, but I'm interested to see how that goes because there's a lot of
someone does a sensible thing and hires assassins,
dude, and it's ugly. They don't just assassinate; like they demoralize before they assassinate.
Giant turds in their victims' mouths, and then
if only that would probably be less ugly than what they do. So, yeah, there's queens and children involved, and it's just not good. I can tell you offline. I don't want to ruin it for everybody, but
I'm interested.
It's disturbing.
I like a good diabolical, unhinged storyline.
Yeah, so there's nothing happy coming in this particular set of storylines. It's gonna get. I think we've seen with the wedding with the marriage of Daemon and Rhaenyra, and actually them letting Laenor get away and kind of go live his life with Carl. I think that's another thing that they might have been thinking is we need to give this like little bead of hope somewhere in this story, because once the stuff gets ugly, these kids get old and it gets nasty. And you have Daemon and you have Aegon and you have Kristen Cole and you have Alicent and Rhaenyra, and everybody has this axe to grind with everybody else on the other side. And it's been brewing and stewing for decades because King Viserys just wouldn't die. And he tried to hold them all together, and he made them come together, and he made them be at celebrations together. So every chance they could have, there was something shitty going on in this group of people, and they were all doing nasty things to each other. And then eventually he dies, and the gloves come off, and it is just what vile, disgusting things. Like, yeah. Anyway, I'll stop because I'm about to give a whole bunch of shit away.
I love it.
Gonna ruin it.
Yeah, there's a lot to come.
And on that note, we better shut JJ up before he keeps going.
Yeah, and to do that, Mattson, tell everybody where they can find us.
You can find us wherever good podcasts can be found. We're excited that our Patreon's been up for about a week. So if you want to get more involved with us and be able to select some things that we watch, be able to see some exclusive trailer reviews, or just tell us something we have to watch, check out our 3 different tiers on Patreon at What's Our Verdict Podcast. You can listen to us on Apple, Spotify, to name, in many other places. Just search What's Our Verdict Reviews. Our website's under a facelift at the moment. And if you want to chime with us on social media, TikTok is the first and foremost place at What's Our Verdict. You see a lot of movie trivia, a lot of different clips from some of the TV shows we're watching, a lot of fan speculation, things like that. Alex doing a great job. We haven't seen the Tiger in a while, so maybe he'll make an appearance. And also on Facebook and Instagram. And obviously we have our live shows here, and chime with us on YouTube and Facebook as well. Mondays, like we're doing right now, House of the Dragon, Rings of Power, and then on Thursdays we're doing Andor.
Cool. Thanks, Mattson. Yep, we appreciate you tuning in as always, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Bye.
Cinemagic out.